Hello, AI Bill here. Before we begin, I'm excited to share that I just released 2 tracks with Ganja White Knight on their new album, Sprouted, and I'll be joining them for 9 shows on their spring 2025 tour. Also, head over to MrBillsTunes.com for early podcast episodes, Ableton courses, sample packs, project files, and more. Become a hardcore Abletoneer today. Our guest is my longtime friend, composer, YouTuber, and technologist Benn Jordan. He began his career in the late 90s under the moniker The Flashbulb, releasing a broad range of electronic and experimental music. Over time, he became a vocal advocate for independent artists, famously reclaiming his music rights, challenging early digital distribution models, and even consulting for Bandcamp before its 2007 launch. His advocacy led him to grow his nonprofit into a music education school and community center in Chicago. Ben now runs one of the most respected YouTube channels in pro audio and music technology, going beyond gear reviews to explore complex topics like the evolution of digital music and the ethical issues surrounding AI. As a critic of how independent artists are treated by the tech world, he's actively involved in setting ethical standards for AI-generated audio and holds patents aimed at preventing non-consensual AI training. In this episode, Benn Jordan returns for a deep dive into everything from technology and economics to the mysteries of the universe. Let's get started.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you are listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're 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 listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Hey, you're listening to the Mr. Bill Podcast.
Now we're recording. I see the big white.
Sick. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. Feels a lot like your podcast today because we're at your house recording and using all of your gear.
That's been a trend lately. Is podcasting from my house for other people's podcasts.
Yeah, it's a good place to do it. I mean, you've got a good setup for it for sure.
Yeah. It also, me being lazy, I kind of did a thing more recently. I sort of decided that because you get asked to do a lot of podcasts here and there, and I sort of decided maybe I'm just going to prioritize real life ones because it's either going to be somebody like you that I know that is already going to have good conversation. That way it's just not, somebody's not going to come all the way here and have a bunch of preloaded questions so what do you like about music?
Right. Yeah, I had that philosophy at first when I started my podcast.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm only going to do them in person. And then COVID happened, and I was like, well, I didn't do them for the first 3 or 4 months of COVID or whatever. And then I was like, well, I still want to do them. So then I was like, okay, I'll try one online. So I did one online, and I was like, that's fine.
Yeah. And I guess if you were to have Aphex Twin on or something, you'd probably just fly to England if he demanded it.
Yeah, that, or, I mean, if the only option was to talk to him online, it's not like I'd be like, nope, sorry, I only do them in person, Aphex Twin.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. There's some study, I can't remember what it's called, but the study was basically looked at a bunch of people's, the way that a bunch of people get to work. Mm-hmm. And they forced them all to get to work a different way for a month. And then after the month, they asked them, did you go back to the old way that you got to work, or do you keep going to work the new way? And most of them, I think, were I could just keep going the new way because the new way is actually better.
Huh. Yeah, and I wonder if it's actually more efficient or if they started a new routine and sort of if you, I guess speaking of COVID, a lot of things that we bought in the store sort of changed. Oh, no more vanilla Coke Zero or, whatever. Now I'm going to try this. And then I never went back to, or somebody would never go back to vanilla Coke Zero just because that was their new routine, not necessarily because they liked it more. But.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the findings were at the end of it. But, it's either that, some routine change, and just once you've been forced into doing things a new way, you just get used to it and want to keep doing it that way, or that quite often when you find a new way to do something, you realize it's more efficient and better way to do it. And maybe it's something to say about just the stubbornness of humans of getting stuck into their thing and only doing it one way or whatever.
Yeah, we're all on the spectrum in some degree in that way. I guess now that I think about it, you've been podcasting for 5 years.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah,
I think I was the second or third. Gardner was the second, right? And I was the third.
you were in the first 10 at least for sure.
Yeah, I think you did like Andrew Wong. And
Andrew was
Gardner and
was
myself, and-
first. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was in person.
Yep.
It was
Exactly.
pre-COVID.
Yeah, I think that was the first time we met. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I think this is probably episode 160 something, even maybe 170. Yeah, it's been going for a long time.
Wait, when was the first time we met?
I think it was that time that we did that first podcast.
It had to be earlier than that. No, it was in Denver.
It might have been like, I think you did a show there
Yes.
maybe and we hung out there.
Yeah, I had that show in Denver. I think that was it. Yeah.
Right. I want to talk about this thing. So, so just before the podcast, Ben was like, "Hey, check this out," and he pulled out this little black box. It's maybe like twice the size of a smartphone, and a lot thicker, and it has a 5x5 array or grid of tiny speakers on it. And when you turn it on, it just absolutely obliterates your microphone, and you can't record into a microphone near it. It just turns the mic recording into just pure distortion and trash.
And I optimized it. I optimized it for like mobile phones and lavs, but I've never tried it with the ones that we're wearing on our headsets right now. So
should we try it just to like show people?
Yeah, I'll start low just so we don't. Because I'm
please.
imagining that whatever sound is going to come out of our monitors.
All right, test.
So I'm turning it up a little bit.
All right, it's turning it up. Test. You can hear the distortion coming in. Test. It's starting to fuck with the microphones.
Yeah.
So this is just a box.
And you can't hear anything in real life.
Right. If you
Like,
take
this
these off, you won't be able to hear this.
And I think, so it's at like a really low volume, but I think if I were to turn the microphone towards, like if it were like a mobile phone microphone or like a, if it was a wider one, because this one's just in front of my mouth.
Turn that down whilst we're talking about. So what? If I move my microphone over to here, no, because I guess like you also have to be talking in the mic. But basically, if you turn this thing up, like I just had it up 2% or something. If you turn that up to like 50% or something, you can't hear anything. It just turns the signal into distortion.
Yeah, here
I kind of want to like take the headphones off just to like show people what we're talking about here, because
I'll record a video on my phone right now, and then I will turn it up right now as I'm recording the video on my phone.
Wait, but that's also gonna destroy our ears.
But I'll show people. I'll just show people what it sounds like from my phone. So here you go. A video on my phone right now, and then I will turn it up right now. Yeah. So
right. So you can hear that it just absolutely fucked the phone recording up.
Yeah.
First of all, why did you want to make? Is this like the first idea I got when you first showed me this? Is like, oh, it's like a security mechanism. If you go into like a meeting with some important people, you want to make sure like a journalist isn't recording. You just walk in and just crank this thing up, and then they can't record you because all microphones can't stand a chance against this thing for some reason.
I've been kind of fascinated with modulating audio up into ultrasonic frequencies, and then without having a device that does it automatically, like the sonic weapons that, I don't know if you've seen me use them on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, the LRADs.
Yeah, those have the modulators in there. They have chips in there that automatically sort of use frequency or amplitude modulation to bring it up. And so I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to just make my own, and I kind of want to find target frequencies of like specific devices and see what's possible. Like,
so this thing specifically targets phones.
Yeah, and this is sort of like, rather than modulating something where you can like take somebody's speech and noise cancel it or something, or defeat noise cancellation headphones, or a lot of different things like that. This would be just kind of the brute force version of that. Like, let's just pump it full of sonic pressure and just turn. And so what you're hearing, that like lawnmower sound, the digital lawnmower sound, is kind of just your phone's microphone being pulverized back and forth really fast and like oscillating.
Yeah, it's just like overloading the microphone with pressure. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised it works because, like you said, when you turn it on, you can't hear anything because it's pumping out like 25K sine wave or something, like extremely high outside of the range of human hearing. But why does that overload a phone speaker? It's usually like when you see someone like recording at a concert or whatever, the distortion is always on like the I notice that is the thing that's like putting out the most pressure. I didn't realize that high frequencies put out that much pressure.
I think I assume that most phones are used to, or I just assume that they're not even designed to think about it. Like you would just have a shelf up in that frequency, but also, it's inaudible. So it's sort of like the one gap within a phone's frequency range or a phone's microphone frequency range where it picks up audio, but you can't, humans can't hear it when it's being transmitted. But yeah, it works on some devices. It works insanely. Like you'd have it in another room and it'll still batter the speaker to where you can't hear a thing. On other ones, like these microphones, these seem to be pretty shielded against it, but I mean, you could still hear, it would still ruin the podcast. Like, you would still be like, why is there a lawnmower outside? But at least, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they're so encased inside.
It seems like they're very directional, yeah. Like, I wonder if I turn around like this to where it's facing the mic more, does that...
Yeah.
No, that doesn't seem to fuck with it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but yeah.
I think it's just more... The drivers probably, because it's supposed to be closer to your face, the drivers are probably a lot more, they need a lot more pressure to be driven.
Yeah, and I guess another argument for doing it with high frequencies instead of low frequencies is that it can be a lot more compact like this. Mm-hmm. It's like something you could just have in your backpack or whatever versus like if you're trying to do it with low frequencies.
Oh, yeah, like an infrasonic, or like an infrasonic speaker of some sort.
Have you seen that video of that guy who made like a 1 hertz sub oscillator out of his window on YouTube?
No.
He like cut out a hole in, like he basically took the window out of a window and then put this like essentially a giant fan in the window that vibrated his entire wall, I think, to turn it into just a giant sub. And it was like rattling the doors in his house and shit. It was insane.
Yeah, I've seen it done with pipes. Like you could do it with, if you have a driver that has a lot of pressure that pushes out really far, and put it inside of a giant pipe, you can then, make an infrasonic speaker out of that pipe. But
just because the pipe acts as a big resonator, or?
Yeah, basically. And like,
wait, so you have the speaker at the end of a pipe and it shoots, like, and it has to be a big speaker too, and a big pipe?
I've seen it done with speakers that are maybe like 8 inches, 6 or 8 inches. They don't have to be absolutely massive. But I'm not trying to remember where I saw it done, but it was like for ages I've been like trying to build infrasonic microphones that are easy to be like transported around to travel with for like the hum and stuff like that. And so like I've seen those testing infrasonic microphones, like which are just essentially vibration sensors. The one that I have now, or the one like I have one, the one that I was like using when I was doing the hum research initially was like a box with some sensors in it, and then it had these like long cables they were like long tubes that would sort of spread out over an entire room or an entire area outside, and then it had to be hooked up to a computer, to like a laptop. And it was essentially a seismograph that was extremely, sensitive. Like you could pick up earthquakes quite far away and stuff like that. But now I have a little vibration meter for like industrial use that like you could unscrew it and put an SD card in it to log data for like 24 hours. And I put it on a metal cup that has like a non-lubricated condom wrapped around it, and it just sort of like sits and it maximizes, whatever vibration, and it picks it up quite well. And then if you like filter it, if you just like filter it in Python or something, like take the data, the CSV data, and filter it in Python, you could get a usable graph for stuff.
Yeah, speaking of seismology, I was actually chat GPTing some shit about seismology last night. I watched some video on YouTube about like how come we've never dug to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
And then I looked up like how far have we actually dug to the center of the earth. It's like 12 kilometers is the furthest hole we've dug out of, I think it's like 6,200 kilometers to the center of the earth.
Isn't that one in Russia? And then,
that's the one in Russia.
Yeah,
just for
the sake of it.
And it took them,
let's dig.
it took them 24 years to dig 12 kilometers, which is 0.2% of the way into the core of the earth, not even into the earth. I guess it would be 0.1% of the entire earth. Which is just fucking insane. And then I was like, well, how do we even know what's down there? Like, how do we know there's a mantle? And then I started looking up shit and got into reading about seismology and how they basically wait until an earthquake happens and then they measure. There's two types of waves that come out of an earthquake: S waves and P waves, and they measure these two different types of waves at different polling points around the planet or whatever. I guess they just have stations everywhere with some sensors on them to be able to check what these waves are doing, and by seeing like how little or how much the wave has changed pressure or state or whatever by the time it hits another one of these stations, they're able to go like, okay, well, we know in the lab if we use this type of material and try and send a wave through it, it has about that same amount of change, and so we guess the middle of the earth is a bunch of rocks.
Yeah. They well, and I guess they use those. Yeah, they use the actual rocks that they suspect are in there. So they're essentially like, it's almost like cryptography, like decoding. Right. And then it's all absorption coefficients.
Right. I mean, it just blows my mind that people figured that shit out over time. They're just like,
I mean, honestly, like astronomy is that on complete, on meth. It's just like the amount that we know about our universe from just calculating an object behaving a little bit strangely, and then like Planet 9, for example, like we've never even.
Is that the one that people think the Anunnaki live on and stuff?
No, that's Planet X, I think, or whatever it's called. But Planet 9, no, it exists. It's in the outer.
It's like the one after Pluto.
Yeah, and it we know it exists because of how gravity behaves in that area, and it's like we've ended up just using subtractive reasoning as a way to like figure out, yep, it must be there, and then every theory we throw at it with another space object that's near it ends up fitting the numbers perfectly, and so that's how we know it's there. But it's really crazy because there's so many things that you can't even see, and it's just like, but we know they're there because we've like painstakingly figured out that that's like really the only possible explanation for why things are the way they are.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube lately has been spaceship launch fails. They're pretty impressive. All the ones on YouTube, they will always just show ones, obviously, where people didn't die. But it's just so insane. I heard a funny joke the other day. Do you know what the difference is between a missile and a spaceship?
What?
We put people on top of missiles and shoot them into the sky. So essentially what they are, they're just missiles, right? And like they just have it's like a giant skyscraper full of fuel, and then they just put some little people in a capsule on the top and just shoot them into it's insane.
It's like pure raw dogging science.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
When you think about like the initial moon landing, the amount of recklessness involved in that was just like, it's really a miracle that it worked, that it worked out as well as it did.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've watched a bunch of videos recently on just like spaceship construction and stuff. I watched some of Jeff Bezos's ones, and then just some random like YouTube documentary shit. And it's essentially just like a skyscraper that they're just full with fuel.
Right.
And like 99.9% of the thing is just fuel.
The Jeff Bezos one, like how is at any point in the development of that thing was he just like, it looks too much like a cock. I can't fucking get in that thing. I had my picture taken. Like it looks like a gigantic dildo. For anybody listening who has not seen it, please look up the Jeff Bezos rocket. Because I mean, it's like if a child drew a dick rocket. It's like that can't be Arab. Like there has to be a better way than that. But
speaking of Jeff Bezos, that's a good segue into capitalism.
Yeah, he's good at it.
You mentioned you're making a video on capitalism, and that this is fresh in your mind, and we were talking about it a little bit at the end of the stream that we just did. Yeah. Curious, what your views on it, like what have you found whilst doing this video? And I guess like how did you feel about capitalism before it? How do you feel about it now? I think classically I thought like obviously there's pros and cons to it. Every single time that I ever heard somebody denouncing capitalism, usually, a tanky or something, just wanting to, talking about communism or socialism, as like, the primary principle. Wait, a tanky's far left or far right?
Far left,
right.
Commies, to like people who are just like full-on communists.
I feel like, socialism has kind of gotten a bit of a bad name from those kind of people lately.
I mean, socialism's gotten like
Hassan Piker and stuff.
Yeah. Socialism's just kind of, it's hilarious the way that like people in our country look at it in the first place, because like we still call the police and we still pay taxes for our property. And there's public schools all over the country. Children literally go to school for free. There's free education.
Right. And
there's
you want
Medicare,
those...
Medicaid. Yeah. There's all these things that are like very, very socialist. But I guess segueing into your question, one thing that I didn't realize, here's some fun facts that I knew a little bit of this, but I really learned more about it. That in right around World War II, so like we had the New Deal after the Great Depression, and
A deal?
The New Deal it was called, and
okay.
FDR, Roosevelt, he essentially just kind of went hardcore, and he set up Social Security for the first time. He set up the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, to monitor stocks and capitalism and all these other things. That sort of set the precedent for the 40-hour work week. Child labor became illegal. Farms got subsidies because farmers were starving, and then he was scared that we weren't going to be able to. Once that the drought ended, we wouldn't be able to have the resources to grow food again, and everybody was going to starve. And the Great Depression started getting better because of that. Obviously, taxes for the upper class were extremely high. And then in World War II, things got turned up a notch. People had rations, they had food rations. They had to get sugar, like little sugar stamps if they wanted to buy sugar, so they could only buy so much sugar every week or every month. If you wanted to buy gas, you had to propose why you needed gas, and then you would be given gas stamps and they could buy gas. And companies, on the other hand, were told what they were going to be producing, how much they were going to be producing, how many people they would need to hire, and what the minimum and maximum they could be paid. So ironically, during World War II, our government was what the Soviet Union was striving to become. But we were just pulling it off accidentally. We were a communist government to get the war, to have our role in the war and have it be successful, to the degree that it was.
And was this because they just needed to divert so many American funds to military shit? Like they were just like, we need to just dump all the money into
everybody
this war.
Needed to be working together. If you look at the signs, it was that you need to work alongside the soldiers. You need to chip in with every American so we could get this done.
So we got to cut back on sugar production so we can buy more tanks or something.
Yeah, but everything. Yeah, and it was like if you have a car manufacturer, if you're Ford or something like that, no, you're making military things now because gasoline. No, we need the fuel to go to our boys and the fighting the Nazis. So fast forward, war's over, 1950s. That's the era of American prosperity. That's capitalism's golden era. It's literally coined that. And oddly enough, in that time, so not only is that a product of the government's very close guiding hand of capitalism, which is what socialism is. That's classic, post-Marxist socialism. But during that period, I believe in the late 50s, early 60s, we were taxing the richest 91% income tax. And it's
like most of your money.
Yeah,
it's insane.
But at the same time, it was not even that controversial because anybody making, $5 million a year could never spend it. And so, it was it wasn't that controversial as it is now, where for some reason we have our heart on our sleeve for, fucking billionaires, where we're, people could never spend the amount of money they have. There's no point in them having that much worth or value or power, but we're so obsessed with the idea that we might become that someday that we need to stick up for them.
Also, just a lot of those people are the ones in power.
Exactly.
And so they keep it that way and they set all the rules up in such a way that they will stay that way. So
2008 happens. Not too dissimilar to what happened with the Great Depression, where just things got too complicated with capitalism. Sorry, my dog's... she's just coughing. She's just coughing. It wasn't that dissimilar from what happened with the Great Depression, where basically what caused the Great Depression was that there was no oversight or transparency in what was happening with stocks. And so everybody had optimism that didn't really add up, and then eventually the bubble popped. The entire economy fell. That happened again in 2008 with mortgage-backed securities.
Wait, sorry. Why did it fall the first time with stocks?
There was no regulated transparency. The government tried to. Grain was a big deal at the time, and the government actually set up an administration in the 20s that would require grain futures to be like put on a ledger for every single person.
Futures are like
a contract, essentially.
Right. You can say, I think this thing's going to be worth X in this.
So futures would be a good example of futures would be like I have a farm here, right? And let's say I was planting a bunch of wheat. And I said, hey, I need some money to plant my wheat this year. I actually want to grow and plant 50% more. I will sell it to you at a bit of a discount, and we sign a contract saying that.
You pay me for it now.
Yeah, so you give me the money now for the wheat, and then in August I deliver this much for that. And so that's a future contract, right?
Gotcha.
And so...
and that would be counted as a stock?
No, a future is a future. But you could still buy futures. And you could invest in futures and like future bonds. Okay, you're getting put down if you're just gonna cough near me. And so you... Yeah, you could still buy like future bonds and stuff like that, and it's considered a safe investment. In the 20s, it was considered a safe investment because it was a contract. You can't lose on a contract, right? It's a great deal. So, but turns out that you totally can because grain prices went from, I don't remember the exact number, but they dropped by, I think they were worth maybe 15% what they were in the course of like a year's falling. So
right, so all the people who bought grain futures...
Yeah.
A year later, we're like, fuck, it's worth nothing now.
Right, yeah, they essentially shorted themselves, right? And so then mortgage-backed securities, sort of same situation with that, where there was like no real transparency. Nobody knew what they were investing in. People were buying subprime mortgages and not realizing it because they were bundled into these mortgage-backed securities that had high credit ratings, B or B plus credit ratings. They didn't realize that they were buying loans where 20% of them weren't going to be paid back. And so the entire economy fell.
So is that another kind of future, buying loans like that?
A mortgage-backed security now, that mortgage-backed securities are really, I mean, as somebody who pays a lot of attention to finance, I'm surprised that they're legal. I'm surprised that it's legal to take a bunch of things in general and then wrap them up into a soup, call them something else, and not be completely transparent about what's in them, and then resell them with your own sales pitch like that.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, if you owe like $500,000 on your house, I owe $500,000 on my house, and the likelihood that I'm going to pay it back is very low, and the likelihood that you're going to pay it back is like pretty good.
Yeah.
A bank could just put those two loans together and sell it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And be like, you can buy this loan for like less than $1 million.
And they could do it with hundreds and thousands, and then they could sell shares in those securities.
And why would you do it? Just to try and like offload all the shitty ones to somebody else?
Because people believe that it's a bit of a more safe bet, because that way you're not just taking on the loan from one family who may lose their job and not pay it off. That way you're betting on the housing market, which, of course, God ain't making no more land. It's going to always go up. And so that's generally what people think when they bought these. And I mean, like everybody's 401k was invested in this stuff. It was the safe investment. You're betting on the American housing market. Unfortunately, it turned out that like those securities had a bunch of subprime mortgages in them from people that should have never gotten the loans that they got. They're just greedy brokers sold them those loans.
And what these packaged up things, was it kind of like 50% subprime, 50% good, or was it like way more shitty ones than good ones?
It depends on it depends on the ones. I think that Fidelities were really bad, but we still may not even have the answer to those questions because nobody bothered to actually look at the time. And so when eventually like more of those houses started getting foreclosed and the truth started coming out, and then everybody started dumping the securities as fast as they could, and the stock market crashed. And so what happened after that? If I guess you weren't in America at the time, Obama was president, George Bush Jr. was president, and Obama was coming in, and they both worked out a deal where they essentially, it was like a new deal, but it was kind of only socialism for like the richest. And so we ended up just spending hundreds of billions of dollars bailing out the banks that otherwise wouldn't have existed, or the investment firms or whatever else. And they put all of this money into new investments for future things, which built up.
The government did?
Well, the government gave taxpayer money to these, or I don't want to say taxpayer money because really it's borrowed money.
Like just minted money.
And we also printed we printed about twice as much money in, God, I want to say like 2009, I believe. One of those years right around then, we printed something like $370 billion, whereas we usually print around like $150 billion at the Federal
Per
Reserve.
year?
Yeah.
A lot.
And so, and a lot of it gets lost too. Like a lot of,
Right.
just it gets unaccounted for, but generally inflation is
quote
always
unquote lost.
yeah. And so we printed a bunch of money and borrowed a bunch of money, and the idea was, well, if we restore these companies, or some of these companies that the government literally bought the companies and controlled the companies, like General Motors. So we had this like socialist, semi-communist government, but it only applied to the people who really didn't need it. The people who were actually being foreclosed in their homes, like it was a lot harder for them, and they ended up, homelessness increased. Our economy, another big factor that like you want to look at is the income gap between renters and homeowners. It increased dramatically, and it still is increasing dramatically. It's higher than it's ever been. And so all these companies, they invested in this like newer economy that put electric scooters all over every city, that turned everybody into gig workers instead of employers that earn wages that are negotiated or get benefits that are required by law, things like that. And then in 2020, it happened again, and our market crashed again because of COVID. And we printed a bunch of money, and we borrowed a bunch of money, and we gave the majority of it to investment banks and venture capital firms and private equity firms, and they doubled down again, and they put all that money right back into these investments that now are giving us this economy where it doesn't look like capitalism anymore. Like it looks like capitalism for small businesses, but those small businesses are like, for example, we ordered pizza today. And so that was capitalism. But to my surprise, DoorDash was involved in that. And there was a gig worker who's not being guaranteed any wage, who can work 100 hours a week without anybody caring, who doesn't have any job security, who won't get unemployment if the app bans him from delivering. He didn't speak English. I'm sure, he seemed like, not that I have a personal problem with this, but he doesn't seem like he's legal to hire anyway. And so how much did DoorDash get from that? How much did Little Caesars, pay for that privilege to have that third party come in? And what private equity has made more predominant than ever is businesses that, like, the first thing they do is they wedge themselves as a third party for a transaction. They're not producing new things. They're not manufacturing new things. There is no like intellectual property that's that useful for society. The only intellectual property or trademarks you have we are the only ones who can get in between these two businesses. They're overfunded, so they subsidize their own use. So like Uber, for example, used to cost like $5 in Chicago. Now it costs more than cabs cost in many parts of Chicago, just because it's not being subsidized anymore. Same thing with Spotify. We've seen the effect, personally, we've both seen the effects of subsidizing all music to the point where our intellectual property is devalued.
Wait, what do you mean when you say stuff is being subsidized? Like how would you explain music being subsidized?
So like when Spotify started, they had billions of dollars in investment capital, and they didn't their first year turning a profit was 2024. And so all that other time they were just burning money, and they
just to try and
negotiate with labels. They're throwing money at labels.
Market share, basically.
Yeah, they gave Sony
recognition or whatever.
Yeah, they gave Sony, Warner, Universal actual stock in the company that they ended up dumping as soon as they went public. And as a result, like everybody paid I think started at like $7, then went to 10 for the majority of the time, and now it's going up again. But everybody paid $10 for unlimited music. That's not how much music costs, or it's not how much it cost in the beginning of that. Like, you would have to buy a $10 album before that, and now you have, so of course it's great that everybody has access to more music, but they did with piracy, and they still bought albums.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like back in the day, if I wanted one of your albums, I'd have to go buy it, and I'd give $10 for the album, and I would assume, like, I don't know, at least 5 of it would probably go to you.
Yeah.
Maybe the other 5 goes to like JB Hi-Fi or whoever's selling it, or HMV or whatever. But yeah, these days it's like you pay $15 a month to Spotify, but I can listen to that album 100 times if I want.
Yeah.
And you might get like less than 10 cents.
Yeah. The bigger problem with that is, like, I've ran this poll 2 times from people who watch my channel and stuff like that, with hundreds of musicians chiming in. One time was over 1,000, one time was 550. And the vast majority of them pay more to have their music put on Spotify than they get paid from Spotify, which indicates that, like, you can't, well, you could, but I don't have every single number that every single person's paying and making. But I would bet that right now, if you're an independent musician, your intellectual property has a negative value, which is actually
like you're making Spotify more money from making music for a living than they are.
Like, you're technically giving money. You're giving money to Spotify, or you're giving money to that economy to make money from your content.
And that's what you mean by music is being subsidized now? Like, Spotify is being subsidized by the musicians themselves?
No, it's being subsidized by venture capital and private equity. More venture capital in Spotify's case. But investors are the ones subsidizing. The same ones who subsidized Uber, who, again, with like the scooters, MoviePass is a great example of like venture capital throwing money to improve somebody's lifestyle through subsidies just to grow that market share and make it the new norm, to become that middleman between customer and business. And MoviePass failed miserably, hilariously. It's like one of my favorite venture capital stories, because they were so arrogant that we're going to let people come to the theater. Do you remember MoviePass at all?
I vaguely remember it. It's like you buy a movie pass and then you can just go to the theaters and watch movies as long as you have that monthly.
It's like $10 or $15 a month, unlimited movies.
Right.
And AMC was like, no, but this ain't going to work. Like, it's just not. And they're like, no, we got it. We'll pay the ticket price. And AMC was just like, no, we're not going to accept your stupid coupons for this. We're not doing it. So they MoviePass ended up sending every single user a fucking debit card that said MoviePass on it that they could only use at AMC, that like worked through a separate bank. Like, that's how arrogant they were, that they would actually make this work and become the new norm. And, the Hollywood would just fall as a result of this. Hollywood would just have to start making $100,000 movies to be able to, make a profit. Like, but the sad thing is that the way venture capital works, is that they throw a bunch of things at the wall, and if one of them sticks, it pays for all those other losses.
Right.
And that's generally, MoviePass is one of those losses. Spotify is one of those wins.
Mm. So you said you think what we're in now doesn't look like capitalism, but for example, you mentioned public schools, you mentioned the police, you mentioned like ordering a pizza.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think in the case of public schools, the teacher's incentive to teach there is because they get paid, and like the police's incentive to come and help you because you're having trouble is because they're getting paid, and the incentive for the Little Caesars to make you a pizza, and then the incentive for that guy to go pick it up and drive it here is all because they're getting paid to do it. Is that not capitalism?
The teacher and policeman is, I guess they're government employees. So anything that's a government employee, I guess you can't really call capitalism. It would be closer to socialism. But in the case of the pizza...
Wait, but even still, they decided to become a government employee and get that job. Like they wouldn't do it if they weren't getting paid to do it, right? Like a teacher probably wouldn't wake up every day and go to school and teach if they were getting paid $0.
I don't think they would do it if they were paid $0, but I think a lot of them would still do it. Like, being a teacher is actually, most people don't become a teacher for profit.
Right, it's like a fulfilling type of thing.
It's abstract. Well, Karl Marx sort of called it abstract labor. It's labor that gives you a purpose or makes you where you improve society as that, and then regular manual labor would be the janitor at the school or something, somebody who's paid less and just kind of clocks in and clocks out and provides the physical labor needed.
I mean, it could also be like, in some ways, for some people, maybe a selfish thing, like they just enjoy teaching.
Sure.
And therefore they're like, same kind of, it's the reason I make music for a living,
Yeah.
right? It's just, I enjoy doing that. It's
Right.
not like I'm doing it to do it as a service to other people or whatever.
Yeah, it's abstract labor. It's and everybody, people who are lucky end up with jobs that are like that, where, they're doing something with their passion, rather than making a pizza at Little Caesars, a job that I actually had when I was 15.
Little Caesars?
Yeah.
Nice. Wait, but yeah, so how is, for instance, the pizza example not capitalism?
The fractured part in there would be the DoorDash driver, where I ended up paying more, Little Caesars ended up getting less. The employee, therefore, can't get the raise that he normally would have had, because this other business that didn't need to exist now exists, because every pizza place had a delivery driver as little as 5 to 10 years ago.
Right.
And now it's almost impossible to see a restaurant have a delivery driver, not because they can't find a delivery driver, not because fuel prices are high or because it's not fashionable anymore. It's because the amount of venture capital that goes into a company like DoorDash or Uber Eats ends up dominating the market so much and providing so much incentive through subsidies, through subsidizing people's experiences, that somebody won't order Little Caesars anymore because they're not on DoorDash or because they're not on Uber Eats.
Right. It's like a convenience tax.
Yeah. And speaking of Jeff Bezos, that's his thing. Like, that's
right. Amazon. Yeah.
Right. Like he took a bunch of money, took a bunch of venture capital. Well, I don't even know if you would call it venture capital. As first, like he met with something like 60 different investor meetings in the beginning, and was asking for something like $50,000 each, like some amount that is not much by today's standards. I know his parents were like huge investors. They owned like 5% Amazon at the beginning. And he just immediately, and he was upfront with everybody that they weren't going to make a profit. There was not going to be a profit for any time soon. It was going to take 5 or 10 years before that would ever be realized. And he put everything into growth and market saturation. And before you know it, Walmart was playing catch up, with online shopping and overall, customer retention and things like that. When Amazon Prime came out, it just became this thing where if you paid, the principle was, if you paid money for a membership to this website where you get free shipping, then you won't shop anywhere else. And it turned out that very, very few, I want to say it's less than 10%, probably less than 5%. I don't have the stat in front of me. Very, very few of Amazon Prime subscribers, which is like over half of the country, by the way, don't even comparison shop. Like if they see something on Amazon, they don't even bother to see how much it is anywhere else.
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much how I operate.
Right.
For the most part. Unless it's something like a synth or like something more bespoke, like an RME audio card or some weird shit like that.
I find myself doing it all the time.
Yeah, 90% of the time I'll just go straight to Amazon for sure.
And then it turns out that in a lot of cases, if people sign out of Prime, or if they like open up a browser in incognito mode or something like that, they'll find that something's actually priced less for somebody who's not an Amazon Prime subscriber. So
right,
a lot
but
of
then
times,
when you add shipping to it, maybe not.
No. I mean, it's free if you spend over $30 or $35 or whatever it is.
On Amazon, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And so in a lot of cases, it's sort of a enter-only economy. Now, think about what you're buying. Like when you're buying something from Amazon, let's say you just buy like a Tascam recorder from Amazon or something like that, you're buying it from the cheapest and closest, like the person who can ship it the fastest and provide it to you the cheapest out of a bunch of different independent businesses that sell that Tascam recorder. Or the one who pays Amazon for listing priority. And if you search for that Tascam, you search Tascam Portacapture, there is a good chance that a Zoom recorder or something else will come up as the first result, because that was also paid for. And so everything that you're being shown, even when you look for a specific product, is algorithmically programmed to have you shopping in a certain way, and it's being algorithmically programmed through information that you not really realizing what you were doing, were giving all of this information to Amazon to use to have put you in that position to maximize as many sales as possible from both ends. So on the other side of that, so the company decides to ship it. They have to pay Amazon anywhere between 30 and 50% for just for that.
Wait,
sale.
is this how Amazon works?
Amazon's a middleman between small businesses or big businesses.
My thought process of how this worked was that Amazon just buys a ton of shit and they just have warehouses full of shit, and then you buy it and they go order. Someone like an Amazon worker in the factory goes and gets the thing, puts it in a package, sends it.
Yeah, no, you buy something off Amazon, something like that. A lot of times it'll be like Gear Tree, which is Sweetwater, and then Sweetwater will have to eat the 50 to 30% deduction.
And is it Sweetwater sending it direct because it comes in an Amazon package, right?
They'll either send it through a fulfillment center near Sweetwater.
Like an Amazon fulfillment center?
Some things do send direct. I just got like that right there. There's something I ordered from Amazon. It's that was sent direct.
Grandpa's Feeders.
Yeah. It's
What is that?
unfortunately, I couldn't find it anywhere else but Amazon. It's an automatic chicken feeder where they step on it and it opens up. But and then other times it comes if it's in a fulfillment center where they have to pay a monthly fee for the storage you have to pay per half or quarter pallet from the last I checked. They have to pay for that, and then they have to pay the fulfillment fees on top of the 30 to 50% that they have to pay for that sale.
So Sweetwater pays Amazon to keep their stuff in the Amazon fulfillment center.
If it's not sent from Sweetwater directly.
I got you.
And if Amazon's just not a middleman capturing the sale.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
So then if you search something that's on Sweetwater, if you search Tascam or something like that, on Google, one of the first results you'll get is Amazon before you get Tascam, before you get Sweetwater or any other, even if Tascam's selling it directly from their website, you'll get, and Sweetwater does this too. I mean, it's like it's just the SEO game where they, try and capture the first sale. Okay, so back to Amazon. When they deliver that, they do hire people, but more and more they're hiring independent contractors who are essentially gig workers, who are just who aren't being paid, who don't receive the same protections that an employee gets. And so, their job, people in Amazon trucks generally piss in bottles because if they take enough time to actually stop and go to the bathroom, they end up getting demoted at work. And so, generally, Amazon, all the Amazon trucks you see have bottles of piss in them. And so it's and then at the end of all of this, does it really look like capitalism at that point? Because capitalism is defined generally by labor versus profit. Those are the two. That's the balancing board. Is you either have labor that's treated well and paid well, and your profit goes down, or vice versa. And this is a very strange perversion that seems of capitalism that seems more and more like money has stopped being the goal, and power has become
people are kind of aiming not for money but for monopoly, whatever this is.
Absolutely. When slavery ended,
monopolization, that's the one.
Yeah, when there's another word for reverse monopolization. For when something monopolizes. So, for example, when Amazon acts as or Sweetwater is actually a better example for this demographic. If you have a new product, if you're a small company, if you're Polyend or something like that, you need to have your stuff on Sweetwater because so many people shop there because they capture so many sales. And so they become a monopoly as a store for a business rather than
it's like
for
the equivalent of Spotify, really. You have to have your music up there,
Yeah.
Or Apple Music.
I can't remember what the word is called, but it's actually, that is an economic principle in itself. But what I've been noticing more and more is that, especially with inflation and everything seems like it's a gigantic inflation hedge with a lot of these companies. Farmland is being sold to private equity more than ever before. I mean, it's been skyrocketing.
What is private equity?
Private equity is just one company that generally, or a firm, a group of investors or partners that will buy a bunch of companies and then classically sell them within 3 to 5 years at a profit. Native Instruments, for example, one thing that private equity does when we're talking about mortgage-backed securities, one thing private equity does is they blend up businesses into securities, essentially, that people can then buy, and they'll buy a package of businesses, usually represented by the most popular one. And so, for example, in our universe, private equity bought Native Instruments, Isotope. One of those was a plug-in retailer that still exists. I forgot what it's called, but
plug-in boutique or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it's one of those middlemen, and then some other company that's now defunct.
This recently happened to Moog too, right?
No,
I feel like they got bought by someone.
That was by
InSound, maybe InSound Music.
well, yeah, the people who own Akai, and that's owned by I want to say Rhode Island Capital, but I know that's not it. It's some northeastern name, but yeah, it is a capital firm that owns that as well. I mean, I don't think that they're going to sell Moog within 3 to 5 years, but increasingly it's been more concerning. I mean, what initially like triggered my alarm here was private equity firms trying to buy my music. Was just people scouts reaching out saying, "Hey, we're going to figure out how much your music catalog's worth, and then give you this price for it."
Yeah, I've had that email before too.
Yeah,
especially during COVID.
Yeah,
people artists need money. Like I had Minnesota on the podcast during COVID.
Yeah,
and he sold a lot of his catalog to a company for like some amount of money, like 150 grand, or it might have even been 50 grand or something.
Right.
And it definitely seemed the initial vibe I got from it is it's like kind of predatory. Like going to artists during COVID when they need money and being like, "Hey, give us X amount of money and we'll buy all of your music."
What I immediately thought of when you said that it was during COVID was that they just got a fuckload of money that was printed or borrowed from the government, that the Federal Reserve gave investment groups that money, and they need to offload it and hedge it because what happens when you print a bunch of money? Inflation rises, and so they need to hedge that inflation. So they can sell it as a profit just because what they're selling it for, U.S. dollars, will be worth less when they sell it. But that's what that's what initially triggered my alarm bells, because I'm like, why would anybody want to buy? Why would anybody want to buy my music library, my discography, at a premium? We're like offering more.
How much do they offer you for it? Can you say?
It depends on the company. But
you've had multiple emails.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, I had just for research, essentially, just to find out what they were going to do. I've had them add things up, and I mean, it's close to $500,000. It's like it's a significant amount of money
for like 10 or 20 albums or something
for all of it, and in perpetuity. And they would have to like renegotiate something in like 15 years or something like that if they held on to it that long.
Right, but do you think this is a good or a bad deal for you? Do you think you would make you said it was $500,000?
Yeah. Which is,
would you make $500,000 from your music in 15 years these days?
Just from TuneCore alone, I think I've made somewhere around like $600,000 at this point.
Since when?
Since the beginning of Spotify, essentially, since like 2009. Yeah.
Okay, so and they would just keep it for 15 years, and then you would get it back.
Yeah.
That seems like a reasonable deal.
Yeah.
Semi-decent.
Right. Maybe.
It's like an upfront payment. Yeah, unless all of your shit just like goes insane, like, in the next few years for some reason, which it might, like if you're doing, you're getting bigger on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't released any music since early 2022 just because of the way that the economy looks with music. Really, like it.
You don't think like something like Bandcamp is a solution, or like your own, say, make your own platform and just sell it there?
I've put stuff on Patreon, and sometimes I've shared like the project files. For a while, I had project files on GitHub.
Right.
People could literally just download them and do whatever they wanted with it.
And how do you feel about Patreon? Because they're kind of like a middleman too, in a way, right?
I'm not happy with it, but
it seems to be like the one you've gravitated towards the most.
It's one of those things where like the thing that's stopping me from literally starting a Squarespace site and putting a paywall on a certain portion of it, or WordPress or whatever, the thing that's stopping me from doing that is that a lot of my Patreon members, and I've asked them, I've like fielded this stuff. A lot of my Patreon members are members of other people's Patreons, and they like that convenience.
Yeah, they
get
like
recommended.
they like it to be all in the same place. Yeah, I understand that. I did Patreon for the podcast when I first started it, but then I shut it down like 6 months or a year in, and I reckon having your own website is the way to go. But I do understand like that as an end user too. I like also understand liking that convenience, like being able to go to one spot. Like I use Patreon and I'm subscribed to a bunch of Patreons, and it's nice to go to one spot and get everything.
Sure. I mean, that's why a lot of musicians still use Spotify too. It's like it's a sacrifice.
I'm a Spotify user, and I do enjoy it. Like I think it's a nice, convenient way to get music. Actually, I thought of something on the way here. I was listening to Spotify, and on my release radar, a Claude Debussy track came on, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck? He's still putting out music? What's the deal with that? Like, why? How is that still happening? I just don't understand. Like with classical people, every now and then, like a Rachmaninoff track will come up in my release radar, or a Claude Debussy track or something, and I'm just like, how does this work? Like, who owns the rights to this shit, and how are they uploading it to the actual Claude Debussy Spotify profile?"
Well, with Debussy, I think I could just take a MIDI file of like one of his tracks and put it through like a Contact piano library. Like if it's, let's just say it was like one of his, piano sonatas or something like that. And then, I could just like tweak it a little bit, tweak the BPM. Like I don't even have to learn how to play it.
But you could get it uploaded to his Spotify profile.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it would probably lump in. I bet that he has a massive amount of just random, like how many...
And then you just put yourself as a collaborator on it or something, and see if you can get royalties.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you have to do that, like, because you would essentially be profiting from both the master and master sync sides because it's so old, right? So it's kind of open. But that makes me wonder if... that makes me wonder if there is some sort of qualifier. Also makes me wonder how many Claire de Lunes there are on Spotify or something like that. Like, it's his most popular.
So I've had this thing happen to me on Spotify a bunch of times, and I've seen it happen to other people too, where like just some random other Mr. Bill will upload their music, and it'll show up as my last release track. Like it'll like knock my latest release off. Right. And be like, this is the latest track I put out. And you have to reach out to your distributor or Spotify directly, usually the distributor, be like, yo, what the fuck is this? Can you get this removed? And it's just possible to do that to most people. It's not possible to do it, in my experience, to Virtual Riot, but to everybody else, it's like, seems like you can just put anyone's name in there and just have it come up on their profile. For some reason, when I had a Virtual Riot remix, he remixed one of my songs like last year. To put that up and have it show up on his profile, we had to like email someone. Could be his distributor or something. But I mean, that's the release hijacking is what that's referred to. And I mean, it's happened to me, and I kind of ignored it and it went away. But I don't know. I also just wonder if anybody even looks at my profile on Spotify. Like if anybody actually... Surely, yeah. I mean, I've listened to your albums in the car on Spotify. I mean, so you've like just typed in the Flashbulb and then like listened to the whole album? It's just so... I imagine that's so rare now that somebody actually listens to a full album just due to... Is it really? Let's see. What are your plays at on Spotify? Yeah, let's see. I honestly haven't looked at it in probably like 6 months. The Flashbulb, you're at 206K monthly listeners still, so that's a lot of people listening. I'm going down. It was higher. I mean, that's about what mine's at, and I consider that to be like a decent amount of people listening. Oh yeah, I mean, it's still amazing, but you think that's just all algorithm recommended and playlists and stuff? You don't think it's people going to albums and listening that way? Oh yeah, it's almost entirely that. They actually show you those metrics. It's almost entirely that. I mean, I should check actually what's going on there. Which also like lends to my point where, that doesn't really look like capitalism anymore when you're like a member of a system, when you're renting a membership to a system, you don't get to own anything. You don't get to buy anything. And then it recommends you, primarily what you're listening to is what it recommends you to listen to. You don't really have that choice that you used to have, or you've been like demotivated to have it, and that's how it operates. And now that's monetized on the other end with their discovery mode, where people
get less royalties to have their music prioritized in the algorithm. And so it's just extracting from both ends rather than even acting as like a middleman that's selling something.
Right. So what is it that you think we're in now, if not capitalism? Late stage capitalism?
Well, one thing that like when I was writing in the beginning of writing my video.
Will this video be on YouTube?
Yeah.
Cool. Can't wait to watch it.
Thanks. When in the beginning of writing this video, I was going over the history of capitalism, and that starts with feudalism, which is, where you have like a king kings decided that they could just own land, and then if somebody wanted to continue living on the land, they would have to give, so many of their, if it was an orange plantation, they would have to give so many oranges to the kingdom in order to stay there. And then capitalism came to the rescue, and people bought their own land. However, then slavery came to the United States, and feudalism more or less ended in like the 15th or 16th century. Post-slavery. Well, my grandpa was telling me a story because my not the family who raised me, but the other side of my family, my dad's side, they had slaves. Not when I was alive, of course, but in the time of slavery, that was a plantation that had slaves. And at the end of it, they, said, well, we know you. You've grown up on this plantation, and you have nowhere to go. So why don't you just stick around, and we'll let you keep some of the crops, and you just pay us some crops for the land. And I later looked into what that was, and that's sharecropping, and that was essentially what happened in a lot of cases when slavery ended, because what do you, if you were born a slave, and all of a sudden the Civil War ends and it's no longer legal to own a slave, where are you going to go? You can't just walk into the road and be like, all right. And so for centuries, I guess, they stayed, sharecroppers remained, and that sharecropping remained up until World War II. That's when it kind of went out of style. But it made me realize that obviously I would never want to compare myself or anything that you or I have gone through economically as successful musicians to slavery, because that's not what I'm doing. But it does look like the economy is set up like digital sharecropping. You can release something on Spotify if you give at least half, most likely the majority, to the land that you're renting to host your music. And you cannot decide how much it costs anymore. I've even had Spotify yell at me for album artwork before, where, I had text in my album artwork about a version number, and they yelled at me and told me to, literally, if you look at my last Spotify release, it has a bunch of red scratched out text on the front of it, just because.
Let's have a look.
I literally just opened Photoshop and was like, all right, fuck you, here's the album
Curly
artwork.
and tapes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's hilarious.
So it's so I can't sell the exact thing that I want to sell.
Why was it that they had an issue with that?
It was version 1.0, because I was going to...
Oh, you were going to update it, kind of like software?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And you were going to keep updating the masters on Spotify with the new artwork?
Yeah.
Huh. And you just decided against pursuing that idea because there's no good platform to do it on?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
Or do you still plan to update it?
If GitHub had large file support a little bit better, if it did the way that it deals with most things, I'd probably just do that, and I would probably just have. But at the same time, it's
that would be an interesting way to release an album, version history.
Yeah, right. Why it's the only reason that our albums are these tombstones, these encased things that we can never reopen, is because of physical media, right? Which nobody's using anymore. So why not? And if you liked the first version of Curly and Tapes or something like that, you could always go back and bookmark it. You could just go find that. It's not there's not enough storage on the internet to put it.
Yeah.
But okay, so Spotify said no. No, that's not allowed.
And why don't you just do it on your own platform?
I still may, It's
a good idea.
Kanye gave me that idea.
True.
Because Life of Pablo, he ended up changing a few things. There's a 1.1 to Life of Pablo. It wasn't named that, but something had changed, and I remember being wait a minute, there's a new like vocal line in there or something like that. And then I was like, oh my God, albums are evolving. They're like software now. You don't have to keep it the way it always was.
You release a change log with every
right.
thing.
Yeah. Like that's pretty bad. And then also like when you add in like the other things that you could put with an album, like session files or stuff like that, especially you, like, I mean, for how many people listen to your music who are also Abletoniers, who also subscribe to your education platform, like that's
honestly, like this give me an idea to maybe like do something like this where
right.
I can just release like all of the project files with all of the versions of like the iterations they went through with the songs for each version.
And then not only that, but like if you are updating an album, like if I decided to make Curly and Selections 1.1 or something like that all of a sudden out of nowhere, and if I were to just release one album that that was like, you know, this living organism that consistently got updated, like before I had a YouTube channel, like people would only Google me like once a year, or every 2 years. Right? And it would usually, and if I looked on like social media, it would be like, oh, he's still making albums. That's cool. As if I got into like HVAC or something else, you know? And that would be a way to keep people connected. Like you wouldn't have to be thinking of stupid shit to put on Instagram constantly because you'd be able to work on music and keep updating your album. And God, I mean, when I think of like artists that I listen to that I actually follow and pay close attention to, like I would be like checking their website every week, you know, like, oh, is there a new Corey Henry thing? Or, oh, is there a new, you know, but yeah, so back to the point, Spotify said no to the artwork, no to the concept. I can't add anything else if I want to have any of those extra files. You can't put that. It can only be music. It can only be encoded the way that they want to encode it with the codec that they encode it with. And at the end of the day, it doesn't look like capitalism anymore. Like, because I'm not able to have the freedom to price things the way I want them.
Well, you can, just not on Spotify.
Right, but it's created, you know, what percentage of music listening is on Spotify now? I'm sure it's changed since the last time I looked.
Like
but,
a lot, yeah. Over 50 at
right,
least.
Yeah, so
probably more.
It's done what Amazon Prime did to, you know, shipping commerce. And so it begs to question, like, it's further from capitalism, like, or traditional capitalism, than it is traditional capitalism. Like, you could still say, yes, there's somebody still making money, but again, this company that's been like both siding it, getting money from both sides, from both customers and from people, you know, essentially giving them royalties for free, not getting paid under 1,000 streams. And it wasn't until 2024 that they even made a profit. So they've just been burning money while taking money from both those ends. And so, yeah, that's not capitalism anymore. That's something else. That's sharecropping, digital sharecropping.
Yeah, I feel like the internet used to be a lot more interesting. It used to be, like, when it first started, there was all these, like, shitty geo-sites, websites, and everyone was, like, no one really, like, knew what to do with the internet. So, like, everyone was just kind of trying shit and doing their own thing. And I feel like these days when I go online, it's just, like, the same 6 websites.
Yeah.
And it's gotten a little depressing, to be honest. I do miss the like early 2000s crazy internet where people just doing insane, like what you're saying, like having a website where you like update an album. Like that's some, I feel like shit you would see in the early 2000s on like geo sites or like MySpace or something.
Yeah, and when people would be like, I'm going to make an album and then I'm going to make a website.
Right.
Like this crazy idea. Now it's like, are you fucking crazy? Why would you? Nobody's going to go to a website.
Right.
Like we were talking about this earlier. I joined Blue Sky when I quit Twitter. I mean, I had been a Blue Sky member for like a year, but I updated it like once. And when I deleted everything on my Twitter account, and like left, you know, whatever it was, like 25 or 30,000 followers, just sort of nuked it and went.
Wait, did you delete your Twitter?
Yeah, I deleted.
Well, I guess can you delete it? I think you can only deactivate it, right?
You can delete it, but but then they could resell your username, which they do. They auction them. Instead, I wrote a script to delete every single tweet that I'd ever made, which was like tens of thousands. It was.
I've done that before. I deleted everything before the year 2017 or 2016 at one point.
Because it was all like racist, like skinhead stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I probably said some shit I wasn't.
Oh, okay. No, I was joking, but
I probably didn't.
I'm sure it wasn't racist skinhead stuff, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, not racist skinhead stuff, but I grew up in Australia. Like,
right? Yeah.
we talk, all sorts of shit down there, and I never expected to get to where I I am today, right? Like,
right.
I was always just like, whatever, fucking everyone's a cunt. And like,
sure.
It's like, it's just I don't know, it's a different, it was at least when I was growing up in Australia, a different culture, and people would say all sorts of shit, and I grew up around that, so I would say all sorts of shit. And anyway, around, I think I did this in like 2019. I was like, the political climate's changed a lot. I'm just going to delete all of my shit from way back then.
Right, yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I did mine basically because I just didn't want it to be able to be engaged with anymore. I just didn't want, I didn't want Elon Musk to get my money in any way, shape, or form. Other than my tax dollars, which he's
right, taking. Like the engagement would then basically be adding good to his platform.
Yeah,
right, makes sense.
And so to Blue Sky I went, and Blue Sky, if they do have an algorithm, it's like very light, like it's just, this person is into pictures of puppies. So maybe we'll suggest some puppy picture accounts or something like that. That's about as extensive as the algorithm seems to be. And the amount of so my number one, I was telling you this earlier, my number one post on Threads is something about Elon Musk. That's like me insulting him in some way. And like, if you look at all my top posts, it's all like very spicy content or content that like some people got really angry.
Yeah, like rage bait or
right,
something.
Yeah. And then on Blue Sky, my number one post by far is astrophotography, or links to videos I made, or me talking about making a video, or
like the actual
music.
Shit you would hope would get a lot of upvotes.
Yeah, like the reason I'm on there in the first place.
It's always annoying. Like you go on social media, and you just say like some snarky thing, or make like some witty comment about like Winamp or like some dumb shit like that, and it'll get like a ton of upvotes, and then you're like, hey, I just put like 400 hours into this album, and it gets like 4 likes.
Oh, right, yeah. But I mean, that's by design, right? Because on X or on Threads, they very much don't want you leaving the site. They want you to stay on it. So they literally deprioritize content that has an off link off the site, whether it's a video or anything else.
Or stuff that they just don't see people engaging with a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like every time I make like for instance, I don't want to mention exactly what it was, but I did something the other day, and it just got a lot of hate on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I noticed if I went and looked at any one of those...
Was that the picture of Muhammad spread eagle masturbating?
Yeah, I don't want to get into it.
That you drew and put it.
Let's not get into it. But I just noticed like everyone on that thread that was hating on me for it, if I clicked on all of their profiles and looked at other tweets that they'd made to other people, it was just, they were hating on fucking everyone. And I was like, okay, I get it. What's happening here is Twitter has found this thing that I've drawn and been like,
I should clarify that you didn't actually draw that. That's my imagination.
But Twitter was like, all right, I know exactly who to show this to.
Yes.
These same 30 people who like to, hate on people in the EDM industry. And yeah, it seems like it's definitely designed that way.
So what is the takeaway from that? Like, ultimately, like the takeaway from that for me was Blue Sky is what society kind of looks like, and Threads and X are just making money off of rage. But not only does that affect my outlook on society and affect my day, just thinking that this is what people are like, which would affect my output. My videos might change because I think that people are so hostile and crazy, or I might be more careful and not take as many risks or whatever it is. But now imagine being like a 14-year-old girl, and this is your environment and it's actually terrifying. It's like all of a sudden I became like so ethically disturbed by social media because of that realization, where it's like, this is actually creating a simulacra for somebody to think the world is a lot worse than it actually is, when actually it's, it's full of people who are more likely to be supportive and kind, but it just doesn't make as much money as somebody like telling you that you're ugly and then somebody arguing with them about what they look like and, whatever else thing that would happen to the average person posting a photo or whatever it is.
So you don't see a company being like, okay, we see what makes money here. People hating other things because that makes them comment, that makes them stay on the site fighting, etc., as capitalism?
I think that it initially was, but I mean, it would be very, very hard. It would be very difficult to consider Elon Musk a beacon of capitalism. Like, you would say that some people I see could say that he's like,
that's
he's
like
won
exactly
capitalism,
what he is.
but
kind of
like, I don't think that being worth $500 billion is something that should exist in capitalism. Like, that's kind of a perversion of capitalism in itself. Like, $500 billion. I think now he's worth like 480 billion or something the last I looked. Like, that's, I mean, he's worth far more than the entire annual gross domestic product of South Africa. Like, if you could shop for countries, he could buy a huge chunk of developed countries. And like, a person, that's not the point of capitalism. Like, a person should not have that amount of power. But more so, I mean, he gave $250 million straight up, not only paid for almost all of the rights marketing for the election, for Trump's election, but he literally paid voters to sign, sign pledges and things like that in swing states. Literally just gave them money. Like, that's not capitalism
that
anymore.
Seems probably illegal.
That's a lot closer to fascism.
Right.
And now, as a result of doing that, he's been awarded a high government position that's never existed before, where, while I say this, he's going through our Social Security files and firing, literally, him and his people that he's employed for this are firing the people that tax him. They're at the IRS and it's like, that's not a product of capitalism. That's a product of something that is entangled in corruption with the government, which is a lot closer to fascism. But again, everything that Elon's involved with is, well, not everything, but I would say that everything he's involved with is either a subscription platform type of thing, where if you could subscribe to full self-driving in your car, if you want to use the media services in your car, if you want to listen to something like Spotify, you have to pay a monthly fee on Tesla.
You have to subscribe with Tesla?
Yes.
That's fucked up. You buy the car and you still have to pay a monthly
Almost
fee.
every car now is like that. It's like...
I mean, I guess I pay a monthly fee to I guess I'm renting my car. But I mean, the idea is like you pay it off and then you own it.
Oh, no. I mean, like, I bought my Ford F-150. Like, I have to pay extra after, I think, the first year to use the Blue Cruise, like, highway driving assist. BMWs.
And what is it? What's the monthly fee?
It's like $40.
Oh, that's not too bad.
BMWs, you have to pay a monthly fee. Some BMWs, you have to pay a monthly fee to use the seat warmers.
Damn.
Like, it's fucking, and so, but that's like,
that is,
it's a rent-based economy. It's like...
Yeah, it really is. So you think we're going closer to fascism? We're not necessarily in capitalism anymore. Where would you ideally like to see society go? Like, if you could just like snap your fingers and it could all go some different place, like, what do you think would work best, and what would you be happiest in?
You know what I was really, really excited about, and this is like one of those things where if somebody fucking clips this without putting the context in it, I'm going to go to their house and bash their head in. Take that as a warning. One thing I was really, really excited about at first was crypto, which it did not work out well, and it's not good for society at this point. But
because I think it's just because of people's greed that it didn't work.
Yeah, and it essentially emulated what caused the Great Depression in the first place, like just lack of transparency when the whole thing was designed for transparency. Like a blockchain, the whole point is a ledger that you can see transactions on and you could follow transactions on.
Right.
But in order for blockchain to actually work in the decentralized way that it should have, you would have to be using it for all your transactions, and nobody's using it for transactions. So. Right. At least not directly in the way it was initially made to be. And there should only be one. Like the whole point is that it was a decentralized currency that everybody used, not a bunch of meme coins that become their own market. And so, with that being said, the idea of decentralized commerce was very exciting because then you could also have things like, running a business in a decentralized manner. I could hire a camera person and a lighting person and somebody to help me do research, and they could all just automatically, with what we were initially promised with like NFTs and smart contracts, if there wasn't somebody profiting on the other end of that pyramid scheme, that would actually create a really exciting way to do things where you don't need any of those middlemen. Like you don't even need Visa or MasterCard or a bank account or any of that stuff.
It's like an automated middleman, basically.
Right.
Yeah. No, I do agree. I think it was a really good idea in the start, but I think people's greed and just need for power got in the way of it. Like the idea of Bitcoin was that it was decentralized. There was no centralized power.
Right.
But there is just a centralized power now. It's whoever has most of the Bitcoin.
I would be really, or who invested early on it, like who found out the first, and in a meme coin, it's
or just like who had the most US dollars or whatever, who just had the most fiat currency and was able to buy up the most, and now they essentially control it because they can control how much it's worth, or
regionally, like who can pay the least energy price to mine it,
right?
Like, and so you end up with like areas of China that are just filled with Bitcoin mines, and where it's like nobody else can get that same level of efficiency. I think at the very least, what I would really like to see and what I would be really excited by, I'm excited by things like Blue Sky and Mastodon and stuff like that. Like that's actually because it's somewhat decentralized. Like if like the way that, the Mastodon system works, where like you have your own servers that you connect to this headquarters server with, and it's a little bit more democratized that way. But at the very least, it's like a no-brainer that there should be a decentralized social network that operates that way, where maybe you do have to buy in initially or something like that, but nobody can own more than one coin. Like there should be some sort of limit on ownership for those things that aren't just finance based, and that would make a little bit more sense. And that would be a good way to vote on things and how you want the site to turn out. You could have referendums every single time that there's a major decision or a minor decision. And you could set up employees and pay them with those same levels of currency and stuff like that, or cash out at that point.
I do think that would be pretty ideal if everyone was on board with that. But that's the other thing with these kind of things is they don't work if nobody gets on board.
Right.
Which I guess that kind of stuff has to come from the government, really. They have to just make a law and be like, you're forced to like go into this new system that is like, democratized.
Yeah, I mean that's what China's doing with their currency,
right?
Like their digital currency.
They make a coin. Or?
Yeah, they have a digital currency there now, and it's like, it's
like all through WeChat or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the, and that's like terrifying to us with our current economy and how we're doing things. One thing that dawned on me just recently that like blew my mind. So back in 2023, I was maybe it was 2022 initially. I was consulting for a few different music gear companies, and I was considering buying a small portion of one just to like hedge money or whatever, fight inflation. And I was trying to research if sales were on an uptrend or a downtrend in overseas markets like China. And China isn't very transparent with their financial data like they are in the US. And so I had to do a little bit of digging. And one thing that I was looking at is like stuff like what we're sitting in front of now, like the Solar 42 synthesizer and stuff like that. These are all luxury items. Like if I at any point got anywhere close to being hungry, I would not be buying this. Like, so, and the average person would not. So you can usually assume that music gear would follow luxury item trends. So luxury items were way down in China. Luxury items were way up in China. But then when I looked at like each individual thing, like gems and like fashion and, handbags, they're all down. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Why is luxury as an item up so high? And then I realized it was all gold. And I was like, yeah, but this is jewelry. It's not like bars of gold. Turns out that all over China, citizens were buying gold jewelry to hold on as hedges because they didn't believe in the dollar. Which is like, what? Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea that their economy was going through such a rough time. And just recently, I realized this happened right after Putin invaded Ukraine. And one of the first things that Biden did when Putin invaded Ukraine, with the U.S. dollar being like the safest currency in history, he has confiscated Russia's assets with the sanctions. And it's like, global investors realize
which assets did he confiscate?
Like basically like any assets that oligarchs had in American banks or that the government had in American banks,
right.
Were just confiscated. And nobody thought that this would ever happen. Like this was like unheard of stuff because like, again, like why would you ever jeopardize the US dollar's legitimacy and bedrock of the entire world economy? And it seems like some global investors were like, China's not going to get paid back. Like, we're just going to invent a crisis with them or a Cold War or whatever, and then confiscate or call off our own debts or something like that and say, well, why don't you do something about it?
Right.
And who knows if that's actually going to be the case, but
it's definitely something you could imagine they'd be concerned about.
It's a strong enough possibility to where people started pulling out of the economy in droves, which is like pretty crazy that was all like related. I mean, I assume was all related. I looked it up and I couldn't find any like news stories about those two things being, the correlation between those two things. But it was like the timing was like one after the other.
Mm. Speaking of like correlation and causation, I just watched your video the other day on your NAMM. You did you interviewed like 500 people at NAMM or something. I was just one that I was thinking when I was watching that video is like, how the fuck did you logistically pull that off? Like, did you just have sort of a form that people filled out as?
No, it was online. So that was that was a Google Forms thing that a lot of people filled out and sent to their friends, and so it was a bunch of unique.
Okay, so I thought based on watching the video that you interviewed, like you asked 500 people those questions. I was like, wow, that's a lot of work.
And it was funny because like I was here and I was like in a big rush to go on that trip, and I was like, you know what? In the days preceding it, I'll just do the data crunching in a hotel room, and like I'll just do it like for one day. I'll just sit in a hotel room and do it, thinking that like I don't know, like I set up some really complex like variables and qualifiers, and so I didn't really realize how complex they were. So I thought that I figured this would just be something that I would be able to do in like a Python library or something, but like I did most of it in Excel, like literally just crunching the numbers like on pieces of paper overnight in hotel rooms up until NAMM, when I got people to read the results. So
what was the sickest shit that you saw at NAMM, you think?
I saw barely anything. I didn't get to go on the trade floor. It's too chaotic now. I think just having your face on like every person who watches YouTube in the music gear world inevitably will see my mug somewhere, and so
try and accost you or bombard you.
Yeah, well, I had a security guard this year, which was a trip. He was funny, but he was funny and unique. I'll have to tell you about that after the pod. I don't want to talk about him I don't want to like tell any stories about somebody's like personal situation. Not that I don't want to tell a story about something that happened in private on a public podcast. But yeah, he was crazy in a good way, but it was a trip.
Nice. Well, yeah, we should probably wrap it up anyway because it's 11 p.m. and I have to drive home, and it's about an hour drive.
And
maybe
it's like
not at this time.
10
like
degrees outside.
It's very cold, yeah.
It sucks. What's happening? I moved down here for what?
Well, yeah, it's always good to chat with you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on the
sorry for
podcast
being
again.
so preachy about economics. Hopefully,
No,
this will
find it
probably align
interesting,
with the release of the video. So
Yeah, no,
people
it's
hear it twice.
super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. All
Well,
right.
take care.
Yeah.
All
thank
right,
you.
I'm gonna press stop. All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mr. Bill podcast. Credit to Robert Fumo for the production and edit. Join MrBillsTunes.com for early access to the video podcast, tutorials, sample packs, and more. And please consider rating and reviewing us on all pod thingies because it really helps the podcast.